Hey YouTube, well this is our Reptile podcast. We're going to be trying it out right now. And, so basically this week I'm going to be the main speaker, and then I'm Doug, aka Spider Monkey 281, and we're going to introduce you to the other two hosts this week.
Alright, hi guys, this is Josh, aka Mark 101.
And Dalton, aka Leo Breeder 42.
And on this week's episode, we're going to be talking about leopard gecko myths. First off, we're going to be talking about first clutches of first-time breeders. And Josh, what have you heard about first clutches of first-time breeders, mostly from a lot of people?
People will tell you that since it's his first time, that it will most likely the eggs will end up being unfertile, but they really are ending up being be fertile for the first clutch, though.
And Dalton, what do you think on that?
I agree with Josh. I've heard a lot about the first clutch is going to be infertile and that it's not going to be any good. But usually if you know what you're doing and whatnot, then the first clutch can be fertile.
Yeah, and I totally agree. And right here on my video camera screen, I have two leopard geckos, and they're from a first clutch of a first-time breeder. And this was actually my first hatchling of the season, Mango. He was from a first clutch of a first-time breeder, and it was fertile. And as you can see, this is living proof. And I separated the eggs, so this one hatched a little bit later. But this is Angel. She's a bell too, and these both hatched from a first clutch of a first-time breeder. So, yeah, that's just living proof of that being a myth. Alright, so the next subject we're going to be talking about is turning leopard gecko eggs. Josh, what do you think about turning leopard gecko eggs when you first find them?
I think it really doesn't make a difference, because the first time I turned my leopard gecko eggs over on accident last year, and the egg hatched out perfectly, and it was living fine.
Now, Dalton, what do you think on that subject?
I think that it's fine if you turn the eggs after a certain period of days. In Ron Trimper's new book, actually, he talks about that he has played hacky sack or whatever with it, and that they have still hatched out after that.
And I agree. Basically what I personally think on this subject is when people say you shouldn't turn the eggs, it's meant for the first-time leopard gecko breeders because they want them to be careful with the eggs so that they don't end up flipping the eggs midway through incubation and killing the embryo. That way you could really drown the baby leopard gecko. Basically, you can flip the egg for X amount of days, and then in the beginning, once you first find it. So if you see a guy flip an egg when he first found it in the cocoa fiber, don't be yelling at him, especially if he did it gently, and he did that. As long as he just doesn't keep on doing that, it's okay. But really, for the first-time breeders, you should not be flipping those eggs. Be as careful as you can when you find them. It's really, really important to be very careful with leopard gecko eggs. And, yeah, so... And I've also heard what you said about Ron Tremper playing hacky sack with them for a little while because the embryo doesn't settle. So, you can flip your eggs when you first find them, but once they go in the vermiculite, you really shouldn't, and just leave it be. Alright, so Dalton, you said this myth, so why don't you share this myth with everyone?
Alright. Superworms and mealworms are eating through the leopard gecko's or reptile's stomach. My local pet shop, I'm really good friends with the person that runs it, or the owner, and she has had people come into the store and tell her that superworms or mealworms have ate through the gecko's stomach and killed it. I don't know what to think about it. It goes both ways. I've heard a lot about it has happened and it hasn't happened. So I'm not sure. I think it's a myth, but I'm pretty sure it's a myth, but not sure.
Well, this video is going to clarify all that. So, Josh, what do you think on the subject?
I think it's fine. I don't think it's a myth. I mean, yeah.
Alright, you want to clarify yourself?
To eat through the superworms and stuff and mealworms. I don't think they eat through the bellies of them. I think they just have like a strong acid stomach or something.
Yeah, and I agree with you, Josh.
But I think it's fine.
Yeah, definitely. And I personally think it can't happen. I've Googled it for pictures, and I've not seen one picture. I personally think it's 100% a myth, and it does not exist whatsoever. So, yeah, it really can't happen. I've fed my leopard geckos mealworms all the time, as you see. These guys have mealworms, no stomach holes in them, and my adults have had mealworms and superworms, and they have not had worms eat through their stomach. So it cannot happen, and it's a myth, and a lot of breeders feed them superworms and mealworms. And even in Ron Tremper's book, he goes and states that no leopard geckos that he's ever had has had a mealworm or superworm eat through their stomach, and he 100% believes it's a myth. In his book, he shares that. Or it might have been his... No, it's in his book. It's in both books. He had an old book, if some people didn't know, and he has a new book. So, yeah. On to the next subject. The myth of pet shops saying it's okay to put leopard geckos on sand. Josh, what do you think about that?
I think it's not good for them to inform like first-time buyers of leopard geckos and reptiles, like desert animals and stuff, to keep them on sand because they can get like impacted, especially the young reptiles and stuff that like dart for their crickets or mealworms, and then they can get impacted and die.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you. Dalton, what's your take on it?
I think it's not right never to keep babies on sand, and don't keep adults on sand and feed them on sand. I think it would be alright if you took them out of the enclosure, fed them, made sure that they were full and weren't going to eat anymore, because I've heard that they have like tried to eat the sand before, like on purpose, to get food. But I think as long as you take, and as long as they're adults, I think it'd be fine if you took them out and fed them, made sure that their water dish was clean and didn't have any sand in it, and I wouldn't even put adults on sand if you put a dish in there and fed them.
Yeah, I agree. Putting leopard geckos on sand or any reptile is a very risky matter. Lots of desert animals can get impacted from it, and it's just safer to put them on like tiles or something, or paper towel. It's safer, it's healthier, and it's more sanitary. And just for safety reasons, I wouldn't even take a chance, because your animals do have the chance of getting impacted and dying from it. So, I would not take a chance there. And that's the myth on pet shops. So, it's really not right for them to say, it's not right for them to say, put the leopard geckos on sand, they'll be fine. And I know calcium sand, it can't hurt them. Well, leopard geckos on calcium sand have gotten impacted, so I don't agree with it.
They do live on in the wild, so...
Or mountain regions, so... in caves, too. So you think about that, too. It's risky, so for safety reasons, I would not put a leopard gecko on sand, and I think it's wrong. Alright. now, basically, that's our show. That's going to be the conclusion of our show. We do have other hosts that are not, like, with us right now. So, yep, this basically will be rotating up the speakers. I'll speak once, Josh will speak once, and Dalton will speak once, and the other hosts will as well. We will be having more topics. If you guys have any suggestions for topics you would like us to do, please comment down below. And, Josh, Dalton, do you have anything to say? No? Alright.
Stay tuned for more.
Yeah, stay tuned for more. Alright, comment, rate, and subscribe, guys. Hey, YouTube, well, this is SpiderMonkey281.
And Josh Merck101.
And we just wanted to clarify one thing that we said in our video. We were looking through Ron Tremper's new book, and there's also one myth that we forgot to say. It was about mealworms, exoskeletons not being digested, and when they ingest it, it led to impaction. That's also a myth. It has never happened, as it says. Thousands of lizards consider. He goes further on in his book saying, I can't pronounce all this. He really goes into a lot of science stuff. It produces an enzyme called chitin that breaks down into chitin, and it's probably absorbed throughout the leopard gecko's body. So that's also a myth. If you think this said, or the exoskeletons cannot be digested of mealworms, that's a myth that can be digested. The other thing that I really wanted to look at, because I wanted to verify what I was saying, because that's very important to me. I was reading Ron Tremper's book on this, and it says, as to mealworms eating through the stomach myth, it's comparable to seeing a virtual vulture eating a dead animal on the side of a road, and concluding that the vulture killed the animal. So basically, what he's trying to say is that there's other causes of death, and the mealworms are basically just taking feast upon the dead, fresh cadaver. So it's basically eating the dead body. So it's basically like a scavenger move. So basically, it can happen, but there's other reasons on why the leopard gecko actually passed. So that's basically what I wanted to look at, and Josh wanted to look at as well, because we both wanted just to double check and make sure. So, yep, and this is a really good book. It tells you a lot of myths, a lot of information on leopard geckos. I definitely suggest getting it. I even have Ron Tremper's signature in there. So, yep. So, that's pretty much it. So, comment, rate, and subscribe.